All right, we are live and kicking. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We are going to give the system about 20 seconds to let everyone in. I can see it's it's sort of plateauing around 60 on my side, but rapidly growing. Let's start. Just say thank you very much for taking the time to come and join us, guys. Really appreciate it. I know how busy everyone is at the moment, so it's really good to have you with us. I'm personally very excited to have the honor of presenting this particular webinar. And in fact, our first Starship's first Ask Us Anything session. By the way, my name's Steele. I'm partner manager here at Starshipit, and I am going to be running today's webinar. So this is an Ask Us Anything session, anything at all, as long as it's specifically about US shipping, then feel free to send through your questions. In fact, what I would say, just a little bit of housekeeping to start with. So you'll see in Zoom, there is a Q&A feature, and there's also a chat feature. So please use the Q&A feature for any questions, and I would highly encourage you to please send in all and every question that you might have. Full disclosure, as you signed up, you would have been asked to submit a question, and we've got a ton of those to go through. So we may not get to your live ones during the session, but please don't let that stop you from asking those questions, because it will form a lot of, we will get back to you with the answers. It'll form a lot of the content that we take out over the next couple of weeks. And it also will probably form some of the product aspect as well. So please do push those in. Customer as a compass is one of our values. So we want to hear from you as much as you guys want to hear from us. So please do submit those questions. I will also start by saying this webinar is for informational purposes only. So a disclaimer, this is not a tax advice session, but certainly we do have qualified people here, of course. And in fact, brings me to another point. We've got some of the most well-respected people in this industry joining us. So we're very lucky to have them. And we will get started in just 2 seconds. So just how it's going to run. We are going to start off with a quick round of introductions to our panel, and then we're going to climb in with each of us is going to actually deliver the most popular question that we've been asked over the last month or two around this topic. And we're going to spend a few minutes on those each. And then we're going to dive into some of the questions that you guys have submitted. But actually, within the 4 questions that we're sort of focusing on is actually going to answer a lot of your questions anyway. So we are, I think we're gonna kick things off. The numbers, I think, we are pretty full right now. So look, I'm going to, as I said, my name's Steele. I'm the partner manager here at Starshipit, and I've been at Starshipit for a good, over 9 years now. So I've got a particular interest in international shipping, but I've also spent hundreds of hours in different fulfillment centers and warehouses, and done implementations with customers along their shipping strategy. So that's my background. I'm going to just flick over to introduce you to a man who needs no introduction, actually, but he's going to introduce himself anyway. Justin Irvine, I'm going to throw to you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that for everyone that hasn't hung out with me or over the years or not aware of the Aggregate Co. The Aggregate Co. is a consultancy and advisory firm that gets into the weeds with SMEs through to enterprise brands, retailers, e-commerce merchants to help them navigate both domestic and international supply chain, parcel and shipping challenges. A lot of very high growth based clients that we've taken around the world, and we basically manage around about $1.5 billion in Australian GMV in the space of a very short 2.5 years. So very excited to be in this panel with a bunch of absolute ecom legends, and certainly looking forward to sharing some advice and hearing what people have got to ask, and hopefully we can help some people out today.
Nice one. Thanks, Justin. And the man with probably the happiest headshot you've ever seen. Morgan Hardy, over to you, sir.
Cheers, Hawk, and thanks to everyone for joining us. Like Justin, I'm very pleased to be able to join you here. So yeah, I'm Morgan Hardy. I founded Indirect Tax Solutions about 5 years ago. I've been in international tax for about 30 years, focusing on all facets on income tax and indirect taxes, your GST, VAT, and sales taxes. And I started Indirect Tax Solutions just after for the COVID pandemic because there was a large increase in indirect taxes being relevant to brands selling internationally, whether it's US sales tax after the Wayfair decision or the changes in the UK and EU that required point of sale collection of VAT. So yeah, I assist brands in Australia, New Zealand, and the US who are particularly on their international side. So where in their destination markets and to understand what are their tax obligations so they're not surprised. And then once they understand them, how do they actually deal with them? How do they optimize their position and how do they avoid running into big problems? So looking forward to sharing a few things around the US tariffs and looking forward to a good session. So thank you.
Nice one. Cheers, Morgan. Waseem, over to you, sir.
Yep, appreciate it. So yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for joining. Waseem here from Zonos. So a little bit about me. I started about 4 years ago with Zonos in the office that we created here on the Gold Coast. Started off as a customer success manager, so onboarding customers, doing the retention work, and then about a year and a half ago moved to being over partnerships for Zonos Asia Pacific. So helping label platforms like Starshipit, carriers, so we're carrier agnostic, all the major carriers and postal operators in Asia use Zonos. So yeah, a little bit about me and Zonos.
Nice one. Nice one. Thanks, guys. Okay, well, look, let's get into it. We're each going to sort of deliver our most popular question over the last few weeks and answer it ourselves. I'm going to kick off because I am can't contain my excitement any longer. All right. So you all submitted a question on registration. One of the most popular ones on registration, but also over the last few weeks, is the question, is Starshipit going to integrate with Zonos? Now, the short answer is yes, but let me expand on that. So first of all, I mean, we've been working alongside Zonos for years with the commercial carriers. So Zonos customers have been using Starshipit, and it's been great. However, we are on the brink of releasing our own end-to-end landed cost solution. Okay, so this is really, really exciting. It's been it's been heavy demand. So our product team has set up and listened to that and has been beavering away really, really hard. And yeah, it's very, very close now. We're going to be releasing this next week. So let me tell you a little bit more about it. So this is going to enable you to offer a landed cost on your checkout. Now, as you may be aware, we have our own plugins or extensions for the e-commerce platforms that will allow you to offer the shipping options along with a dynamic shipping price, and that's always been available. But we're going to add into those a landed cost calculator, which will also include the duties and taxes at checkout. Now, I know there is a raging debate around when to show the duties and taxes or when to roll it up into your product price. So as a lot of things in Starshipit, it's configurable so that you will be able to actually roll it up into your product price, and Starshipit will see that, calculate the duties that have been included in there, and remove that the duties from the sale price and declare that in the commercial invoice. So there's ways and means to do that. Now, Starship is also going to ensure the correct remittance to Customs Border Protection. Okay, there's no need for a Zonos account in this scenario. We will manage it all on our end, and it will be one account, Starshipit, one bill from us, and it will be seamless. Okay, so it's really, really important to know, and it will be a guaranteed accuracy as well. So any discrepancies when the order arrives at customs, that will be handled as well. So on our side. So again, we're really excited about this. We're expecting this to launch next week. We are going to launch it next week, hell or high water, and we will keep you all posted on that. Now, at the end, you will be able to scan a QR code just to register your interest in this as a sort of a pre-registration, so we can sort of contact you and get you guys up and running on that. So look, really excited about that, and I hope that sort of answers your question around that aspect. Again, you won't need a Zonos account. It will all be handled by Starshipit. Good. So I will pass over to Justin, Aggregate Co. What's your question, sir?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, with the new policies in effect, the shipping landscape's definitely changed a lot, right? So, I think for everyone that was shipping to the States, I think it was a bit of a watershed moment that you'd basically been able to ship to the States like it was another part of Australia. There was very little to no kind of compliance or regulatory aspects of things, like you would see to say the UK or the EU. And I think that's really the way of framing this up, is that we're now in a position where the US has taken a stance of you're actually we're not a like we're not dealing with like this free access that the world's been used to for so long. We're now in a position where you're going to need to have a level of regulatory compliance, very, very similar to the UK and EU. And you know, the EU and the UK have zero. Sorry, the EU has a zero de minimis for VAT collection. So it's basically if you're going to frame it up like the US has just cottoned on to the fact that really this should have been going on forever. And you know, we're now in a position where we just need to structure businesses. I guess as it's changed the landscape, it means that we're needing now as an e-commerce industry in Australia to just understand what does that look like and what does it mean. It basically means we need to get our ducks in a row in relation to setting some structure and framework around making sure that there are some basics in place, that how we look at our pricing structures and investigate, again, using the EU as the example, where I guess the slight difference is with the EU, you had been able to get away with sending it DDU, which means deliver duty unpaid, and just let anybody up there deal with it. Now everyone's very much in what we call a delivered duty paid scenario, where Australia Post with Zonos is capturing duties and taxes and tariffs prior to shipping, which is a smart way of doing it. But now, what does that mean? And what does that mean across the different carriers and the different options? So nothing really changes from a carrier standpoint when we look at Express. We are now, however, going to have a few more charges that are going to be applicable for the Express carriers. So what we call DDP charges or advance of funds fees. Basically, it's a fee for collecting duties and taxes and tariffs, and having those billed back to you by those express carriers. There are a number of other commercial carriers where that's also the case from a standard perspective for your 5 to 10 days delivery windows, although they often do not charge for those DDP charges. So realistically, from a commercial standpoint, there's not been a lot of big change there. The one thing that is changing is obviously that free access to the US via Australia Post or any other postal network operating out of Australia is now changed. They are needing to collect duties and taxes up front, and I'll let Waseem talk more specifically about how that functionality works with Hawk. But realistically, the landscape and such, a lot of it is just about really understanding your numbers. We're now in a position where I think the industry is definitely learning that there's a grow up phase here, that we are having to like basically do all of the things that the rest of the world has been doing for quite some time. And it's just about being educated and having a plan and getting this boring admin stuff sorted out. But from a service standpoint, you can continue to do business today quite happily from Australia. It's just about getting your pricing strategies right, your back of house structure right, and getting your carrier mix right. And there's been a real interesting play in the way that even the carriers are adjusting their pricing with these new changes that have come into play. So there is a bit of flux there for sure. But from our standpoint, the landscape, all the same carriers are available. It's just how do we work in this new world? And excited to see that people are adjusting. The likes of yourself, Hawk, and Waseem coming to market, and having experts like Morgan come in to help us with those back of house things that we weren't thinking about before in relation to sales tax and physical nexus if you're up there, and lots of different aspects of doing business. So yeah, it's been a reasonably fluid year for all of us.
Sure has. Yeah. And I think you're exactly right. The education piece is something, I mean, everybody's going through such a learning phase, and no one got into e-commerce because they loved talking about tariffs and shipping and stuff, right? So, but unfortunately it's now time. And yeah, it's good to be right across this. All right. Waseem, over to you, sir.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think Justin kind of alluded to what types of questions my team and I have been getting over the last fortnight, which is mainly around New Zealand Post and Australia Post, and how we have helped in a pretty short turnaround get them shipping back to the US as quickly as possible. So it's a bit of backstory on how Zonos was able to make this happen. So originally we were one of two qualified parties by the Customs Border Protection, so CBP, to remit duties to the US. So how we have built this out is there's two primary offerings we have for these postal operators. One that we call Post Collect, and the other where we call Zonos Collect. So indicative of the kind of naming convention, one in which the postal operator takes responsibility to collect those duties from the customer, and the other in which Zonos helps facilitate that collection of duties. So the reason why I bring that up is because both with New Zealand Post and Australia Post, both those options kind of differ for both of them. So New Zealand Post will bill their business customers direct. We will then get that information, remit those duties, and then bill New Zealand Post, and then they will go ahead and build their business accounts. For Australia Post, it's a little different. We have the verified accounts, which we'll speak about a little bit later, but the verified accounts will be how we bill business accounts direct for those duties for those US orders. And that's how we will kind of manage that for Australia Post. What this means for everyone essentially is for orders under 800 US dollars into America, duties are applicable, and you can go what we call PDDP, which is Postal Delivery Duties Paid, which is what we've actually been doing into Canada for, I think, just under 2 years now. We've been going PDDP into Canada as well. So that's been set up. And then for the rest of the region, so we currently, I think it's around 30 different postal operators we have going live into the US, which is really good. So in APAC right now, it's Australia, New Zealand, and South Korea, with a few other major postals going live shortly as well. So into the US for Australia Post specifically, I believe they went live yesterday. Things have been going smoothly. We have a Australia Post support email box for my team and I here, and we've been reaching out direct and getting those emails and understanding how we can best help. So that's been going well. New Zealand Post are also live, and that's been going pretty easy as well. But Hawk, I'll let you talk a little bit more about how this will work with our integration as well.
Yeah, exactly. So just to build on that a little bit. So, well, I was hoping there would be a new acronym came out of this webinar, because there's not enough already in this industry, PDDP. But yeah, so what Waseem was talking about is great. And that will be all outside, and if you are not using Starshipit, end-to-end landed cost solution. All right. So as he said, was in Australia Post will be billing their merchants for that stuff if you're not using the Starshipit solution. So yeah, we'll get into some more of that later. But Morgan, your turn.
Great, thanks, Hawk. So I guess the question I've had most based around what's happening next, and is this really just a blip you've got to get through? We all know that the tariffs are quite a political issue in the US, and there's a lot of political drive for bringing them in, and that's why they came in so suddenly, and the de minimis was reduced so suddenly, because a lot of these have been brought in by executive order, which is a very flexible tool that allows the President of the US to basically impose an obligation on the on government arms. So do we see a change to this in the future? I think firstly, there are no doubt going to be some changes and tweaks along the way. So you should be agile, be prepared to adjust, because there's nothing saying there won't be an automatic increase in duties or something, some changes. It's a very unpredictable environment. But I think the fact that the US had de minimis at such a high level of $800 made them quite an outlier. Australia and New Zealand have $1,000 for tariffs being collected at the border. Other countries are much lower, and the EU has a zero threshold for customs collection, as Justin mentioned. The UK doesn't have a zero, but they actually do require you to collect VAT on the low value consignments as well. So even at the lower level, you don't escape it fully. But the US is definitely an outlier. So it was surprising in some ways that it lasted that long. And so I definitely don't see it coming back, because now there is the ability to collect the tariffs. The big reason, which is the administration of reducing the de minimis, that's gone. And so I cannot see any appetite anywhere to bring it back. And then I guess the next big thing that happened back in March, April was the IEPA tariffs that laid a schedule of tariffs for basically all countries, ranging from 10% up. And so will we, and for a while there, we saw the tariffs on China go up over 100%, and India is still at 50%. My view is it's going to be quite hard for even a new administration in the future to eliminate these tariffs, because there's going to be an easy attack that they're not protecting the supposed US manufacturing jobs that these are going to encourage, whether they arise or not. So I think politically it's going to be very difficult to change either the de minimis, especially, or the tariff rates for any new administration. And even though the existing tariffs are being challenged through the US courts, and the Supreme Court, I think, is due to rule in or consider it early November. One, I'm not sure they will necessarily strike them down. And two, what we have seen from the current administration is a willingness to change tack to achieve the ends that they seek. So even in the event that the courts did strike down the executive orders that brought in any of these changes, it would not surprise me if new executive orders came up and the courts are playing whack-a-mole for the rest of the administration. So basically, I think it's you have to be agile. It's a new world, and as the guys have been saying, it's time to get the back office in order, be clear on what you're doing, be clear on your pricing, because this is the world going forward.
Yeah, exactly. I think what you're saying there around the court ruling coming out is you're quite right. From what I understand, they've got a whole lot of other tools in their belt. If IEPA is ruled illegal, then there's plenty of other ones that they probably will implement. So yeah, it's not going away anyway. So look, let's speed things up a little bit. We've got 20 minutes now to run through some of these, which we're going to start with this one. And I think, Waseem, you're probably best placed to sort of answer this one. How do we find our HS tariff codes?
Yep. So I'll just make this one short and sweet, because we do have a free option for this. The verified account, it's a free account in which we have a tool called the item quota. So you can plug in your item and you'll be able to get an HS code back for that as well. We've had a lot of the smaller businesses who might not have the most accurate information use that tool over the last fortnight, and that's helped them get an accurate duty calculation based on the HS code we provide.
Yeah, perfect. And the other thing I'll add to that is within the new solution that we are releasing, it will be able to do that for you as well. So you'll be able to have your HS code. You will need to sort of make sure you've got good product descriptions. That's going to be really key to getting a really accurate HS code. Just very quickly as well. So there was been some questions around HTS codes. So I think it's worth just talking about the differences here very quickly. So, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, Waseem. The HTS code is really the US specific one, which is just an extension of the 6-digit HS code, which is sort of a standardized global HS code. And then the rest of the digits will be specific to the US. Am I on the right lines?
Yep, nailed it. Nothing to add there.
Yep, perfect. Okay. All right. Can I label my products as being Australian made? I'm going to take that one. The short answer is you can, on one very specific condition. They are, in fact, Australian made. So you need to be really, really careful on this one. And the same as the HS codes, the data has now become even more important than ever. In fact, with the country of origin, as of very recently, this is a mandatory field for Australia Post. You will get an error if you don't have one, and same with the HS codes. So making sure you've got a description, HS codes, and country of origin, and making sure that's really, really accurate. So let me just so if we're defining the country of origin, okay, so I've got a sort of definition here: where goods are manufactured or substantially transformed. So you've got to ask yourself some questions and put it through a bit of a filter. So the products that you've got, have a look at where they're substantially transformed. So an example that I was sort of heard the other day: if you are importing material from, I don't know, let's say India, and you're making shirts, okay, that material is going through a substantial transformation in Australia, and you can sell them as Australian made, okay? If you're importing shirts from India and you're adding a pocket and selling them, saying they're Australian made, that's not a substantial transformation, okay? So it needs to be really, really, you need to be able to really back it up if you're going to be claiming Australian made, or wherever you're claiming that is, you need to be able to really back it up. The other thing you can do as well, if you really are, you know, and it's a bit of a grey area, there is a program called the Binding Ruling Program, which is put together by the CBP, which you can actually get a binding ruling. So if you put an inquiry in there, you might get a response in 5 years. I don't know, but there is, and also Chamber of Commerce and stuff, I think is kind of semi helpful in that regard as well. But you need to be able to back it up under those sort of that sort of filter, if you know what I mean. All right, let's go. What are the new thresholds for taxes, duties, liabilities? Australia Post are requesting us to set up a Zonos account. They indicate shipments not linked to a Zonos verified account will be returned to sender. How does it fit into the Starshipit workflow? So I'm going to let Morgan take the first part of this question.
Yeah, certainly. In terms of the taxes and duties, sort of mentioned with the $800 de minimis going, there is now a zero threshold when it comes to tariffs in the US. So regardless of the value of the item, there will be tariffs that are payable. You know, if there are actually a positive tariff on that item. In terms of other taxes, all of these changes only affect what tariffs are applicable, and the de minimis being eliminated. They don't change anything to do with sales tax or already income tax in the US. It's purely what's happening. What do you pay CBP at the border? One thing probably just quickly add on that is we often talk about DDP as covering duties and taxes, or tariffs and taxes, and they do cover all of the taxes that are collected by the various customs. In the US, sales tax is administered at the state level, so it's not something that CBP collect at all. While other countries might do so, CBP doesn't. So when you're sending DDP into the US, you will be able to prepay or have paid the tariffs, but it doesn't have any impact on any state sales tax that may be due.
Good to know. Okay, really good one. Yeah, as far as the how it sort of fits in with Starshipit's flow. So the information we've got from Australia Post is that the parcels will be collected and taken to the depot. At that point, they're going to verify whether or not there's going to be a payment on the duties and tariffs before they leave the country. So they're essentially leaning on if the customer has either one of two things, either a Zonos verified account with a payment method, or once it's launched, is it come from Starshipit, and is Starshipit picking up the the bill for that. So that's how it works. And if the answer is no to either of those questions, then yeah, it will be returned to sender. But what they're telling us is it will be returned to sender before it leaves the country. That's the information we've got at this stage anyway. Right. Okay, what are mid codes and why do I need them? Yeah, they're all new acronyms. Oh,
Who doesn't love
Justin.
who doesn't love a good acronym, by the way? So MID codes are basically manufacturer identification codes. So something that's been in play for the States for quite some time, more so for those that were shipping from a bulk perspective. It's basically an identification code that US CBP use. And just to kind of reiterate a point that you made earlier, Hawk, around the declarations of correct origin, and I'll include valuation in that as well, because there's a lot of bro commerce advice at the moment on social media telling people to misdeclare their products incorrectly. I will give you the heads up now that CBP has far more AI-based tools that Doge has put into place in the last month than most private-based businesses. So I think it's something that people are not aware of. And basically, these AI-based tools that have been specifically built out in the last month by Doge for US customs is very, very quickly picking up any anomalies whatsoever in relation to historical changes in pricing, valuation, origin. If you've shipped through DHL, FedEx, UPS, Seco, DHL, Ecom, it will pick up on those things. And the MID is an extension of that level of data that they're tracking. And specifically, the MID is about understanding the name of the factory, where the factory is located, and details around that. And that basically, that setup creates a code with US Customs so that they can track and monitor blacklisted suppliers that aren't meeting certain criteria around fair trade acts behavior. Anyone that's had fentanyl history and background. Yeah, it's not a perfect system, but it is definitely something that is required now for shipping product to the US. So again, one of those boring things in the background that we've had to do for other countries and other people doing bulk shipments around the world and into the US, but unfortunately now something we have to do for all of your suppliers. And you can capture those, I'm pretty sure in Starshipit, right, Hawk, you've got an allocation area for the MID. You're on mute, mate. Sorry.
Exactly. No, you're quite right. So yeah, you can store those MIDs against your SKUs in Starshipit if you don't have them against your SKUs in your e-commerce platform, and we can pass those through with the shipments.
Cool.
Exactly. Perfect. All right. What do we got? What are some ways to manage duties and taxes and costs effectively? I think Morgan, have you got something on this one?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. So I think probably the first thing is, and Hawk alluded to, and the setup with Zonos, that where you're displaying your price, including any tariffs, that when it comes to the import declaration, those tariffs will be excluded. So you're actually giving the sale price of the underlying goods, and that then ensures you don't pay tariffs on tariffs. And it's probably the biggest thing. When you're working out your pricing, you're going to decide whether you're going to show a price inclusive of tariffs or have tariffs included at checkout, and you no doubt decide based on your views on cart abandonment which way you'll go. But if you are including the tariffs in the price, make sure your terms and conditions note that, and that the customer is going to be the importer, but that you'll settle the tariffs for them, and that provides the basis for extracting or excluding that tariff portion from the price you're paying, because after you make the sale, the information goes through to your shipper, through your logistics software, and the price is included in the customs declaration, the import declaration. So if your information flows aren't right, if your settings aren't right, and the wrong information is being passed through, you're going to double up your duty and pay a lot more. So that's a key thing, your settings. In terms of other ways to look at how tariffs can be reduced, you probably hear about a lot of other options. The first sale methodology as a way of basically including a wholesale type price on goods that have already been earmarked for export to the US, or possibly we talk of B2B2C, that's business to consumer transactions, where you have a series of transactions along that flow, and the import price is based on the price to the importer, which is that middle B, that business transaction price. So all of those may allow the import customs value to be lower than what the retail price to the consumer may be. And that will obviously reduce the tariffs that are paid. Now, those do need to reflect the actual transactions that occur. Your start point for your customs value is the transactions value of a bona fide sale under which the importer acquired the goods. So, and as Justin alluded to with the AI tools, CBP, there is, if you start muddying the waters with making up prices, there is a big risk of being found out. And what you are dealing with is not just the risk that you might get hit with a higher tariff than you expected, but you are actually rolling the dice a bit with your sales channel into the US. So there are definite structures you could look at. They're not simple, and they do require to really understand what it is you're signing up for. Make sure your back office is squeaky clean and that you understand the administration, because it's not just a mere election to use a lower price.
Yeah, perfect. And that's why people like Morgan have a job, because
Yeah.
they're good at it. Good. Actually, just one question on that. So you talked about the B2B to C aspect. So with the it actually being reflected in the transfer of funds. So what is the transfer when is it the B2B side? Is that just going to be like a wholesale price? What's the transfer there?
Effectively a wholesale base price, maybe a bit
Yeah.
higher than wholesale.
I see.
So the transactions value for an import has to be a bona fide sale, which is normally, if it's between related parties, CBP can overturn that price if they believe that that price was influenced by the relationship between the parties. So if you have your Australian distribution company and a US import company, or possibly even another Australian company that then ships off to the US consumer, we're talking about a sale price between those two related companies. And so in terms of deciding whether or not it's a fair price, you're looking at under the terms, would that sale be made for that price? So normally you'd expect you're not going to be passing on just your wholesale price. There'll be some form of markup on there. And if you looked at that middle B, the business that's then buying it to sell to the consumer, its accounting, its profit and loss is going to be the sale price to the consumer less the cost of buying it. So if there's a big gap, that company's going to be left with massive profits. If that company's in the US, you've got massive profits in the US, and you're going to have transfer pricing issues with your local tax authority, the IRD or ATO. So that price needs to be such that that middle company is not just earning mega profits. There may be a case of having distribution charges and other marketing charges charged into that. So a price definitely above wholesale, but it's got to be one that doesn't smell of being unreasonably low just because they're related parties.
Yeah. Okay. Got you. Okay. Well, look, I think just in the name of, I think you've touched on sort of first sale a little bit there. We're running out of time rapidly. I might just quickly skip on to 7 and Waseem, I'll let you answer this one around how can I charge customers the tariff via Zonos on Etsy and Shopify?
Yeah, so I'll try and get through this one. It's pretty straightforward. So we have a Shopify module. We've been in the e-com space for about 16 years, similar to what Starshipit are going to provide. Essentially, the same solution is the duties and taxes and fees calculated at checkout. We guarantee the amount. And that's our Shopify solution. So it's a module that you plug into your checkout to display the duties, taxes, and fees on separate line items for your end customer to then prepay. In terms of Etsy, that's like a super interesting one because it's really new to both Zonos and Etsy. So right now, a majority of customers to handle this are adding the duty amount into their shipping because some of them who are not using Starshipit, I believe, Hawk, don't have the ability to then distinguish and remove that duty amount from the item of price. So that inflated item price is being reflected in all their regions, which is not what they're looking for. So right now, majority of those customers using Zonos on Etsy are including that duty amount in their shipping price.
Yeah, exactly. And so it'll work the same way with Starshipit with our intended solution next week. Good. All right. How are small businesses dealing with tariffs, especially if a large component of their business are manufactured in China? Okay, I think we've got Morgan. Want to tackle this one? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, this is a tough one. It's really, really hard for small businesses. I know some businesses have just stopped shipping to the US if it wasn't all of their market because it's just raises the price too much. And if you don't have the volume or balance sheet to be able to put stock into the US, then unfortunately there is not a lot you can do. The tariffs are on the price that they're imported at. I do see some people looking for alternate suppliers, which is something you do. I do see others looking to have fulfillment out of, say, China. And so the goods, almost like more of a drop shipping model where the goods are being sent from China. What that does do is put the import declaration on the supplier's side. And often the supplier doesn't have the transaction price, the price it was sold to the consumer at. And so I do get concerned that there's some under declaration of values, which could be a risk. So I feel for small businesses because it's not easy to deal with, but make sure you avoid getting into a worse situation by doing something that's going to come back and either cause massive penalties or a major impact to your ability to sell to the US.
Yeah, I think just one other real quick part on that, because I know we're short on time, is just make sure that you're not putting tariffs on top of tariffs and then paying tariffs on tariff. Like, just if you're going to roll up the tariff into a new revised pricing for the US market, just make sure that when it's declared to the carrier, and I know you can manage that through your product setup, Hawk, is that declare the actual value for duty, which is taking the tariff out and then having that's your value for duty. But you will need to indicate on your website that you are including duties and tariffs so that you can, in fact, back out those duties. But it's a pitfall we've seen with a lot of small businesses. They think, oh, I'll go from 100 to 130 bucks. And then all of a sudden they don't take the 30 bucks off and they end up declaring,
Yeah.
end up declaring 130 for tariffs. So
Yeah, the
bit of a
inflated
disaster.
price. Yeah, exactly. And I think but making it, as you said, making it really clear actually on their product page, I would say as well. So
Yeah,
not
totally.
necessarily just, don't make them go hunt for it, but if you make it really obvious saying this is actually including the tariffs, then you won't look quite as expensive perhaps as well. Okay, Justin, can you talk a little bit about the processing and clearance fees between carriers, Australia Post, DHL?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, a lot of the standard commercial offerings, and I say commercial as non-postal, very regularly you might pay like more of an invoice fee for the week, which can be as low as 20 to 50 cents an item. For express carriers, I'd expect to be paying somewhere between $5 and $10 Australian, certainly no more than $10 Australian, should be more around the $8 mark. For these tariff charges or these collection charges per shipment on a DDP basis. And then for postal, I might need to lean on Waseem on this one because I'm getting differing numbers. So is it $1.60, I think, from memory for Australia Post as a transaction charge for their PDP?
Yeah, so for Australia Post, it's $1.69 AUD and 10% of the duty amount.
Yeah. So all of those are on top of the shipping. So again, if you were doing DDP to the UK, the EU, Canada, wherever, you would have already been paying for those. They would be turning up in your duties and tax invoices. So quite often you wouldn't even know that they're there half the time. You think, oh, I'm just, for some reason, my duties and taxes aren't quite working out. So that's where they would usually wash up into, and that's where those charges will continue to wash up into. So just be aware that you will have, because some people are paying as high as $15 to $30 for a DDP collection charge when it should be at least $8. So yeah, that's a big call out. That's being aware of those costs.
Yep, absolutely. That's a good one. Okay, real quick. How do I integrate with Zonos, Australia Post preferred partner for duty collection per shipments with items with different country of origin and manufacture? Waseem, do you want to have a quick crack at that one?
Yeah, so the easy answer to this, you can integrate Zonos for sure, but soon you'll also be able to integrate Starshipit for the exact same offering and keep everything under one umbrella, under one roof, one bill. But essentially, it will be a module similar to Starshipit at checkout, and it'll be able to separate it. So you should be able to go and have a look now at the Zonos module, and the Starshipit, I'm assuming Hawk will just replicate what we're doing. It's the same offering.
Yeah, so we've certainly, with the modules we've got currently for the e-commerce platforms, it will essentially be added into there with the live shipping quotes.
Cool.
Okay, look, we are out of time. Very quickly, there is a QR code on the screen there where you can register your interest for our end-to-end landed cost solution. So please go ahead and do that if you are interested. I know we have a ton of questions still sitting in there. We've managed to answer quite a few by the look of it, but there's still a ton in there. So we're going to try and get some content together that will answer a lot of those. So apologies we didn't get to those. Very quickly, I'm going to hand over to these guys just to let us know where we can contact you to find out more. Morgan.
Thank you. Yes, probably the easiest way of getting in touch if you want to is through LinkedIn. So Morgan Hardy, email at morgan@i-tax.co.nz. But LinkedIn's probably the easiest way. Click me a message if you want to answer any questions.
Great, Justin.
Yeah, likewise for me, easy to just catch me on LinkedIn. Otherwise, through the website, www.theaggregateco.com. And yeah, look forward to trying to help out some more people and try and navigate some very fluid times that I would expect won't be changing anytime soon.
Nice one. And you don't need to speak to Waseem, you need to speak to Starshipit next week. So that's great. And look, we're going to leave it there, but again, really appreciate you guys coming along, and we will be putting some more content out there very, very soon, and hopefully have the rest of your questions answered shortly, and the recording will come out to you soon as well. All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks everybody, appreciate your time, and have a great day.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.